Today's lesson will be Online Drawing 3, Lesson 3, and we're going to be working on a value study in oil pastel. And it's the first time we've used oil pastel, so I'm going to do a little intro to that process. But the materials that we're going to be working with today are black and white. And if you have a gray, some people might have a larger set, a gray is another option, but somewhere within the black-white range. Oil pastel is one of the least forgiving of the media that I use in these classes. Once you put down a black line, it's very difficult to pull it up again, which is why we're going to start with pencil. But I also want to show you what the goals are and what the real only way that you can possibly erase would be using a coin, like a nickel or a penny, to scrape away the top layer. So first we'll look at that. Okay, often when you have a white oil pastel that's dirty, you have to clean it, which means going on the side until all you see is white. I'll look at my gray that has a little bit of green on it. Try and clean that. And make sure my black is only black. Okay. Then I wanted to show you the value range, where if you're working with, say, we're working with a white on the left and a black on the right. It's invisible because it's white on the paper, but I'm going to go halfway up, and then I'm going to go with the black on the other end. And because it's an oil-based medium, I will notice when I get to the white. Okay, so right here is where they overlap. So if I wanted to get a gray in this region in the middle, I would go over the black with white. So first I'm just smearing it down, because if you just put the white down right away, it will be absorbed by the black. So I'm smearing it down. And say I wanted my gray to begin a little earlier. So this is a value range I'm showing you. You can even scrape at this point and get some of the top layer of black off. It comes off on your penny or your nickel. And then here I am going over with my white again. Notice when I go to the straight black, it really is absorbed. Maybe we can get a dark middle tone gray up there. But this is what our range is going to be today while we're learning how to work with oil pastels. And they behave a little bit like oil paint, if you've ever tried that. Okay, so I want everybody to try a value range before you get started, so you're familiar with this process of working with the oil pastel. And you go gradually from light to dark. And it's pure white here, pure black here, and you can continue to add a little bit of white over here if you want it to be a smooth gradation, because it will continue to absorb the white. But then I've got to go back here and clean my white again. So always have that piece of paper nearby to clean your colors. And because this is the first time, I'm not going to suggest that everybody just dive right in. but instead work with a pencil and an eraser and do your line drawing. So I'm going to measure my horizon line is about 2/3 at the bottom, 1/3 at the top. So around here, no, around here. Because my lid is mounded and I've got a little handle at the top, it's not going to be a symmetrical set of curves. It bulges more on the top because it's a rounded top. This is the most curved area in the entire composition for the objects that sit flat on the floor, because I'm looking down at it more than all the others. So that's the line drawing, and now I'm going to mark my highlights and my shadows. Now to make this look white, I'm going to have to make the background a little darker. Because I have gray, I'm going to start with that, although you would have to, I'll show you both ways. Gray would give you a value like this, but you can also use white and a very light amount of black. Over the white. And then you use the white as a blending stump. I really just need it where it's touching the white object, because everything down here will be a black surface for me. It makes sense if you have something that is dark underneath your white objects so that you can see where the shadow connects with the dark, and it's gray rather than black, so it gives me the full value range. Because this is the light side and this is the darker side for me, I may end up adding just a little bit of white over the black side because it's reflecting light. And this is where, if I accidentally go in the line, I would use my coin or my fingernail to pull out before I layer any more color on top. Cleaning my white again. And I just fill the whole highlight side. And you can take the penny, get a clean corner, and pull out the dark. This only works if there's a layer of white underneath, so be sure you put a layer of white underneath. Now I need this to be light, but I also need the center, the highlight, to be lighter, which is why there's a little bit of gray. Using a paper towel or Kleenex also works to clean your white. You can put white down first or gray down first in the area that's going to be darker. Because it's a white object, it will not be as dark as the highlight on the black. And the darkest region for my my sphere will be the underside. There's a shadow right down here. Now there's a darker shadow, again on a white object, so if you have gray, use gray. If you don't have gray, cover the whole thing with white. Then I'm adding just a small amount of black right around the edge. And it's over the white, so it will not look black when I'm done. Like when we were using graphite, I'm putting lines that I will then blend with the white. I'm adding white to the highlights on the lid, and just generally so that it doesn't become too dark, I'll put a light layer of white everywhere. And then I use the white on top to blend it. In order for the highlight to stand out, I'm going to have to make this slightly gray, which is one of the hardest things to do, so I'm adding another layer of white before I lay down a little bit of black. If you make the lines further apart, they will blend to a paler gray. And I may even scrape out some of the darker gray while I can. And I'm using some fresh white here. The last thing I'm going to do is the picture, because I want you to get an opportunity to work on your drawing. But this gives you an idea of how much you can do with just gray and white and black. So as you can see, it has a painterly quality. It's a little bit different than the other kinds of pastels that we work with. Sometimes it's harder to control. And sometimes you have to go over it multiple times and get the little specks of crepe off before you start in on a second layer. But this gives you an idea, so now it's your turn. Have a great time.